Global Monetary Watch, July 31st. Something has sparked a fresh wave of discussion across the Iraqi Dinar community, and today we're taking a careful look at what is actually known. Over the past several days, online conversations have focused on reports claiming that a major U.S. financial institution may have circulated internal exchange rate projections involving both the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong. These reports have attracted significant attention among currency followers, but before reaching any conclusions, it's important to separate verified information from online speculation. That distinction is essential whenever financial topics become the center of public discussion, especially when rumors begin spreading faster than confirmed facts. One of the biggest challenges in today's information environment is that unverified claims can quickly appear credible after being repeated across social media, forums, and video platforms. In the case of these reported bank documents, there has been no official confirmation from any major U.S. financial institution that such exchange rate projections have been publicly released. Likewise, no government agency or central bank has verified the authenticity of the documents circulating online. That means any discussion surrounding these reports should be approached carefully and understood within the broader context of ongoing financial developments rather than treated as established fact. Even without verified evidence of a bank leak, the conversation itself highlights something worth examining. Large financial institutions routinely analyze currencies from around the world as part of economic research, international trade assessments, and risk management. Banks frequently prepare internal models covering a wide range of possible economic scenarios. However, analytical modeling should never be confused with official exchange rate decisions. A financial institution studying a currency does not mean that a policy change has been approved or that a valuation adjustment is imminent. Understanding this distinction helps place recent discussions into a more balanced perspective. While speculation continues online, the actions of the Central Bank of Iraq remain publicly documented and provide a much stronger foundation for analysis. During recent years, Iraq has continued implementing reforms aimed at strengthening its financial sector, improving transparency, and modernizing banking operations. These initiatives have included upgrading payment systems, enhancing regulatory oversight, and reinforcing measures designed to combat money laundering and the financing of illegal activities. Such reforms have been widely discussed by international financial organizations because they contribute to building confidence in Iraq's banking infrastructure over the long term. International cooperation has also played an important role throughout Iraq's financial modernization process. The country has worked alongside global institutions to improve banking standards and strengthen regulatory practices. These efforts focus on creating a more efficient financial system that aligns with internationally recognized frameworks. Although these reforms require considerable time to implement, they demonstrate a continuing effort to improve institutional capacity rather than pursuing rapid policy changes. Financial modernization is generally viewed as a gradual process built on consistent improvements instead of sudden transformations. Another important area receiving attention is Iraq's broader economic engagement with international organizations. Officials have continued discussions regarding trade, investment, and economic cooperation while maintaining communication with institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and pursuing steps connected to broader international economic integration. These meetings often generate significant interest among observers because they reflect Iraq's ongoing participation in global financial discussions. However, participation in these initiatives should not automatically be interpreted as evidence of upcoming changes to the official exchange rate. Exchange rate policy itself remains under the authority of the Central Bank of Iraq. The official rate has continued to operate within a managed framework, with policymakers balancing domestic economic conditions, inflation management, financial stability, and foreign currency availability. Central banks generally adjust monetary policy only after evaluating numerous economic indicators rather than responding to public speculation. For that reason, any future decisions regarding exchange rate policy would be expected to follow official procedures and public announcements instead of relying on rumors circulating through unofficial sources. One topic frequently discussed by economists is Iraq's foreign currency reserves. Strong reserve levels can provide additional flexibility for central banks when managing financial stability and supporting confidence in the national currency. Iraq's economy continues to benefit significantly from energy exports, with oil revenues remaining a major contributor to government finances and reserve accumulation. At the same time, reserve management represents only one component of a much larger economic picture that also includes fiscal policy, inflation trends, investment conditions, and overall financial stability. Economic analysts also examine the concept known as the real effective exchange rate, often referred to as the RER. This measure compares a country's currency against those of its trading partners while adjusting for inflation differences. Discussions surrounding the RER can sometimes lead to public speculation about whether a currency appears overvalued or undervalued relative to broader economic fundamentals. However, the RER is an analytical tool rather than a policy announcement. It helps economists evaluate competitiveness, but does not determine whether or when a central bank will alter its official exchange rate policy. As we continue through today's update, it becomes clear that understanding Iraq's financial landscape requires looking beyond individual rumors and focusing instead on publicly available economic developments. Verified reforms, international cooperation, banking modernization, reserve management, and monetary policy all contribute to a much more complete picture than any single unconfirmed report circulating online. In the next part, we'll examine the role of global oil markets, Iraq's international partnerships, and why many analysts continue to monitor these broader economic factors when evaluating the country's long-term financial outlook. Oil continues to play a central role in Iraq's economy, making it one of the most closely watched factors when discussing the country's financial outlook. As one of the world's leading crude oil producers, Iraq relies heavily on energy exports to generate government revenue. These revenues help finance public spending, support infrastructure projects, and contribute to the country's foreign currency reserves. Because of this relationship, fluctuations in global oil prices naturally influence Iraq's fiscal position. While stronger oil markets can improve government income, lower prices may place additional pressure on budget planning and economic management. The global energy market has remained dynamic throughout 2026. Supply decisions by major producing nations, geopolitical developments, changing levels of industrial demand, and broader economic conditions have all contributed to price movements. For Iraq, adapting to these changing conditions requires careful financial planning rather than short-term reactions. Government agencies and the central bank monitor these developments closely because maintaining economic stability depends on balancing revenue expectations with responsible fiscal management. This broader economic environment provides important context when evaluating discussions surrounding the Iraqi dinar. Beyond oil production itself, Iraq has continued exploring ways to strengthen its international economic relationships. Recent years have seen increased attention given to energy cooperation, infrastructure investment, transportation projects, and regional trade initiatives. Expanding commercial partnerships can help diversify economic activity over time while supporting broader development objectives. Although these agreements are often viewed positively by economists, they should not be interpreted as direct indicators of future exchange rate decisions. International cooperation and currency policy remain separate areas of economic management, even though both contribute to long-term financial stability. Another subject receiving attention is Iraq's banking sector modernization. Financial institutions throughout the country have continued implementing technological upgrades designed to improve efficiency, increase transparency, and strengthen regulatory compliance. Digital payment systems, enhanced banking supervision, and improved reporting standards are among the reforms that have been discussed publicly. These initiatives are intended to create a stronger financial system capable of supporting economic growth while aligning more closely with international banking practices. Modern financial infrastructure is generally viewed as an important foundation for long-term economic development. The conversation surrounding the Vietnamese Dong has also become part of recent online discussions. Reports referencing both the IQD and VND have encouraged many observers to compare the two currencies, even though their economic environments differ significantly. Vietnam and Iraq operate under different monetary policies, economic structures, and development strategies. Comparing them directly, without considering these differences, can lead to inaccurate conclusions. Nevertheless, Both countries have attracted attention because of their ongoing economic reforms and expanding roles within international trade. Vietnam recently reached an important economic milestone by being classified as an upper-middle-income economy according to internationally recognized income measurements. This achievement reflects years of industrial growth, export expansion, manufacturing development, and rising national income. While this classification has generated discussion about Vietnam's long-term economic trajectory, it does not automatically require changes to the country's exchange rate policy. Central banks evaluate numerous domestic and international factors before making monetary decisions, regardless of changes in economic classifications. Some observers have suggested that stronger economic fundamentals should eventually be reflected in currency valuation. While this is an area of legitimate academic discussion, economists recognize that exchange rates are influenced by many variables simultaneously. Inflation, productivity, trade balances, capital flows, foreign investment, monetary policy, and global market conditions all contribute to how currencies are managed. As a result, economic growth alone does not necessarily translate into immediate changes in official exchange rates. Understanding this complexity helps avoid oversimplified interpretations of broader economic developments. Attention has also been given to the continuing economic relationship between Iraq and the United States. Cooperation has included discussions involving infrastructure, energy development, financial services, investment opportunities, and security coordination. Such engagements demonstrate ongoing diplomatic and economic ties between the two countries. Financial observers often note that cooperation in banking regulation and compliance contributes to strengthening institutional frameworks. However, these partnerships should be viewed as part of broader economic policy rather than evidence supporting specific claims about currency valuation. Within Iraq, policymakers have emphasized improving financial transparency and strengthening confidence in the banking sector. These efforts include enhancing anti-money laundering measures, improving regulatory oversight, and encouraging greater participation in formal banking services. International organizations frequently highlight these reforms because stronger institutions can support economic resilience over the long term. While these initiatives are important milestones, they represent gradual progress rather than immediate policy changes affecting the value of the national currency. As today's analysis continues, one theme remains consistent. Verified developments provide a much stronger basis for understanding Iraq's financial direction than unconfirmed reports circulating online. Publicly available information shows ongoing institutional reform, international engagement, banking modernization, and economic cooperation. These developments deserve attention because they reflect measurable progress supported by official statements and documented policy actions. In the final part, we'll examine the different scenarios economists often discuss regarding currency reform, clarify the distinction between redenomination and exchange rate adjustments, and summarize the key verified facts that investors and observers should keep in mind when following future Iraqi dinar developments. As we move toward the conclusion of today's analysis, it's important to examine the various currency reform concepts that are frequently discussed within the Iraqi dinar.
Community.
These terms are often used interchangeably across social media, but in reality they describe different economic processes. Understanding the distinctions can help viewers better interpret future news reports and official announcements. Rather than relying on speculation, it is useful to focus on how central banks typically approach monetary policy and the conditions that influence decisions regarding a nation's currency. One concept that often appears in public discussions is a gradual appreciation of a currency. In many countries, central banks choose to make adjustments over an extended period instead of implementing sudden changes. Such an approach allows policymakers to monitor inflation, trade activity, banking stability, and investor confidence while reducing the likelihood of market disruptions. Whether or not such a path is appropriate depends entirely on economic conditions, government policy, and decisions made by the responsible monetary authorities. There is currently no official announcement indicating that such a process has been scheduled for the Iraqi dinar. Another topic that frequently generates attention is the possibility of a larger exchange rate adjustment. While this subject is often discussed online, Any significant change to an official exchange rate would require a formal decision by the Central Bank of Iraq and would typically be communicated through official channels. Currency policy is shaped by a combination of domestic economic conditions, international financial relationships, reserve management, inflation objectives, and broader monetary strategy. Because of these factors, speculation alone should never be viewed as confirmation that policy changes are imminent. A separate concept that deserves clarification is redenomination. This process involves introducing a new series of banknotes with different face values, often by removing zeros from the currency while maintaining equivalent purchasing power during the transition. Redenomination is generally intended to simplify transactions and improve the efficiency of cash handling rather than to increase the real value of the currency. Economists emphasize that redenomination and exchange rate appreciation are distinct policy tools, each serving different economic objectives. Confusing the two can easily lead to misunderstandings among those following currency-related news. The Central Bank of Iraq has previously acknowledged discussions surrounding currency reform as part of its long-term modernization plans. Public statements have consistently indicated that any future monetary reforms would be carefully planned and communicated to avoid unnecessary disruption within the financial system. This reflects a broader principle followed by central banks around the world, maintaining confidence through transparency, preparation, and gradual implementation whenever significant policy changes are introduced. Official communication remains the most reliable source for understanding any future developments. Returning to the reports that sparked today's discussion, it is worth remembering that no verified evidence has confirmed the existence of an officially released U.S. bank document containing future IQD or VND exchange rate targets. While financial institutions may conduct internal economic research and model various scenarios, those analyses are not equivalent to policy decisions or guaranteed outcomes. Treating analytical exercises as confirmed events can create unrealistic expectations and distract attention from the verified economic indicators that truly influence currency policy. The broader picture remains centered on Iraq's continuing economic reforms. Banking modernization, improvements in regulatory compliance, efforts to strengthen financial transparency, and cooperation with international institutions have all been documented through official announcements over recent years. These developments indicate a sustained effort to build a stronger financial system capable of supporting long-term economic stability. Although reform is often gradual, each institutional improvement contributes to creating a more resilient banking environment and greater confidence in the country's financial framework. International engagement also continues to be an important element of Iraq's economic strategy. Discussions involving trade, infrastructure, investment, and financial cooperation demonstrate the country's intention to strengthen its position within the global economy. These initiatives are significant because they encourage broader economic development beyond individual policy announcements. However, they should be evaluated on their own merits rather than interpreted as direct indicators of future exchange rate decisions. Economic cooperation and monetary policy operate within related but distinct areas of national governance. For viewers following Iraqi Dinar news regularly, today's discussion serves as a reminder of the importance of relying on credible information. Official statements from the Central Bank of Iraq, government ministries, recognized international organizations, and established financial institutions provide the strongest foundation for understanding ongoing developments. Rumors, unverified documents, and speculative commentary may attract attention online, but careful analysis requires distinguishing between confirmed facts and unsupported claims. Maintaining the distinction helps create a more accurate understanding of complex economic issues. As new developments continue to emerge, we will keep examining the facts, reviewing official announcements, and placing economic events into their proper context. Our goal is to present balanced, evidence-based coverage that explains what is confirmed, what remains uncertain, and why each development matters within Iraq's broader economic landscape. Thank you for spending your time with Global Monetary Watch on this July 31st update. If you found this analysis informative, consider subscribing for future fact-based coverage of Iraqi dinar and global currency developments. As always, continue following official sources, stay informed, and we'll see you in our next update.